Diego Pavia and the quarterback room will be key to Vandy's success in 2024.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On today's episode, we're going to discuss a potential linebacker commit who would be a great fit in Clark Lea's defense. Game times for the first 3 games have been announced. But first, Diego Pavia in this quarterback room will be a major key to Vandy's success in 2024. Notice how I said Diego Pavia and the quarterback room, right? So with the philosophy on offense, it's just going to be more than just Diego Pavia, and he's not going to be the only one that's going to contribute. That could be and probably will be Nate Johnson and possibly Nate Berlowitz too, contributing as well. Quarterbacks will factor heavily into the run game, and I think that's where they're going to have to kind of fit in, because being involved in such a rushing attack that's going to feature the quarterback in the option game, design quarterback keeps, things like that, which in a previous episode I said running backs were going to be key to making that go. That's still true, because without running backs, you're not going to be able to do anything. So you have to, when you have a scheme like this, you have to have quarterbacks that are durable. You have to have more than one that can do different things. And also, if you have quarterbacks that can do slightly different things, you can actually be multiple in what you do in the run scheme. And I think that's how they're going to factor in, because Nate Johnson is fast, he's explosive, and he can do a lot of different things. He is somebody that is going to come in and you're not going to be able to key in on, oh, hey, here comes number 8. That's his new number, by the way. Hey, here comes 8. He's going to run it up the middle, or here he comes on a quarterback sweep. Like, you're not going to be able to predict that with Nate Johnson. You're going to set, he's going to have a package of plays that he has as he develops. Now he's developing into a pretty good quarterback. He had the whole spring of reps where he was the guy. Blaze Berlowitz, not Nate Berlowitz. I don't know where Nate Berlowitz will probably be a good quarterback somewhere, just not at Vandy. It'll be Blaze Berlowitz, who will be a great quarterback, I think, in the future. He's somebody that got a lot of great reps as well during spring practice. So this quarterback room together, I think, between being able to scout, being able to back each other up, being able to, give the offense some good looks despite who's in there, will be very, very, very key in how well this offense is able to run should something happen to Diego Pavia, should something happen even to Nate Johnson. I don't know how this thing is going to shake out. I don't know exactly how they're going to structure it. I could see a world where you have Diego Pavia as your number 1. You have Blaze Berlowitz as your long-term number 2, and you have Nate Johnson as kind of like your change up, your not, I don't want to say gadget guy, because he's a little bit more than that, but he's kind of like he's going to have a specific role in a specific set of plays, is at least early on. I think that's kind of, I could see a world where that would happen. But then again, he could learn the whole thing and just, be ready to take over at any point. So this thing, through fall camp is going to be an interesting story. But the fact remains is that with all 3 of these guys being good runners, you're going to have the guy. Like, every time the quarterback takes off, that backup quarterback is tighten up that helmet. It used to be the straps that buckled. Now it's the little zipper thing. So you have to know that every time Diego Pavia is going to take off up the middle, Nate Johnson can be like, okay, here I am. won't get loose. I'm going to get loose. He's not left-handed, by the way. I'm left-handed, though, but he's going to get loose, right? And so he's going to contribute at some point in some major moment somewhere in the season. You're going to have Nate Johnson on a really important drive. Why? Because Diego Pavia is going to be banged up. It's going to happen. Like, this is the SEC. When you run your quarterback, it's going to happen, right? And so that's where quality depth is going to kick in. And I think Vandy finally has some quality depth at the quarterback position. And when I say quality depth, Ken Seals, AJ Swan were good. Don't get me wrong. They were good. They just didn't really fit. Like, nobody really knew what they wanted out of them. Okay. But now you've got a bunch of quarterbacks, and I'm including the two freshmen that are coming in, St. Hilaire and Muschamp, that they fit now because I think I think Clark Lee and I think Tim Beck and Jerry Kill obviously have established an identity on offense and established what they want to be and how they want to attack. Now you were able to go get pieces. First with Nate Johnson, you get a guy that could really kind of fit a lot of different things. And then you go get Diego Pavia, who becomes available. And he's going to be the leader of the pack. And his contribution, he's going to be the leader. He can do a lot of different things well. He's a good distributor of the football. I don't know as far as deep ball accuracy. That's probably his biggest deficiency, but I don't think with what Vanderbilt's going to be doing, they're going to be taking a whole lot of shots down the field. So I think you're okay there. He's a good runner. He's tough. He's got a lot of intangible qualities that you really like to see. And so as you're constructing a game plan, you're thinking, all right, Diego Pavia, he can do this well, this well, this well, and this well. And there's no atmosphere too big for him. At New Mexico State, he walks into Jordan-Hare Stadium and beats Auburn handily. Like, it's one thing, like, if they were to like beat him on a last second field goal and it was kind of a flukish type thing where New Mexico State had a lot of things go in their favor, and that would be one scenario. But what Diego Pavia showed is that from the first snap to the last, he took that game over. There were situations where he was delivering the shots. He was standing in the pocket. He was picking apart Auburn's defense. That's what he does. And that's what, and Tim Beck having him back in a full-time role will ultimately help this offense get to where it needs to get. And then it'll set the tone for future Vandy offenses. And I think that them finding that and them getting Diego Pavia is really kind of where we're at with expectations. It's a major reason why we are where we are with expectations, because he's so knowledgeable of the system that not only can Tim Beck implement the base schemes of what he does, but he can go ahead and start installing the master's level stuff, because Diego Pavia is going to take it to that level anyway, right? So you're going to see more RPOs. You're going to see, and I know we talked about this. I've talked about this with Steve, how, I think a lot of sense is that Vandy's going to try to slow it down around 55, 60 plays. They're not going to go like 75, 80 plays, but I think they're going to go probably 60 to 65. And I think they're going to be able to control the tempo. And by control the tempo, I mean, if they want to go fast, they can go fast and they can hurt you. Or if they want to slow it down, they certainly have the ability to do so in that regard. I think between quarterback runs, RPOs, I think you're going to have more explosives that are going to develop out of these plays, which may actually work in favor of the argument of they're going to have 55 plays, because 10 of them might be explosive and it might be big chunks that lead to quick points, things like that. There might be aspects in the game where special teams comes into play, which that's a totally different topic for a totally different day. But the fact remains is that, led by Diego Pavia and all the things that he can do well, you have Blaise Berlowitz, who is very similar but a taller, lankier version, and then you have Nate Johnson, who is just explosive. And it'll be hard to keep guys like Nate Johnson off the field. So you have a lot of quality depth, which is important when your scheme is the way it is. You have a good changeup in Nate Johnson that also factors into the quality depth because he is somebody that's not just a one-trick pony. You have quality backup in Blaze Berlowitz. And you have, like I said, you have Diego Pavia that can attack and hurt you in a multitude of different ways and will not hesitate to tell you about it. And his intangibles will be the X factor in how this offense moves because they're going to do so with confidence. He's going to let you know about it. And there was a comment made on one of my videos before of, hey, what's this swagger? Vandy needs to win a few games before they start talking. Well, my response was, well, this group that Vandy has doesn't know that Vandy's supposed to suck, right? They don't know that. They didn't experience. A lot of these guys didn't experience 2-10. A lot of these guys, the brand new nucleus of this team, are all transfers. There's very few in the nucleus that was around last year, except for the head coach, Langston Patterson, CJ Taylor, and a few of the guys that I don't know really what roles they're playing, but there's a small handful. And right now it's all about the new guys and, and how they can help. And those guys did not go 2-10 last year. So those guys are coming in full of whatever, chip on their shoulder, piss and vinegar. They didn't get the memo that, hey, you're at Vandy now, you're supposed to suck. They didn't get that memo. So they're going to come in with a ton of confidence. You see it. You've seen it in practice. You see it. You can hear it in the way they talk. And that's a lot of that's going to be spearheaded by Diego Pavia. He's in now. And so his full confidence, his full swagger is coming with him. And that's going to be kind of where you get it from. And that's kind of where you have to get it from is the quarterback position. So but they're going to have plenty of time to work on that. They're going to have plenty of time to work on things. And Diego Pavia is going to come right out of the gates on opening day to show off his newfound swagger. And you're going to get your first payoff from all the work in spring and fall camp with game times that have been announced. Virginia Tech, they're getting started. They're right out of the gates. They're getting started early. We'll talk about these game times next. When you're hiring for your small business, do you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role? Well, that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open for the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. You hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn because LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process even easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. You should too. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN and on your TV all day? And are you having to turn down the volume with all that shouting, especially on shows? Well, I'm not even going to name them. The only one I'm going to name is the one you should switch to. You should make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. And I think you know which ones I'm talking about. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the Amazon Fire TV Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, as I mentioned before, the game times have been announced. Vandy is kicking off with Virginia Tech at noon or 11 o'clock Central here in the Music City. They're hosting Virginia Tech, and it's first things first, man. And this is going to be Diego Pavia's first chance to show the world that the Vandy State Aggie doors are for real. And Virginia Tech is going to obviously get a chance to crush that dream that all you Vandy fans have. And after listening to this for an entire summer and fall camp season, you're probably going to be full of optimism. That's the goal, at least. I think it's real, man. Like I know some of it is a little bit, I don't want to say manufactured, because you could say what you want to say, but I mean, my optimism is real. I see what's going on. I see what's happening. I think it's real. I think there's real reason to be optimistic. And I think Diego Pavia, as I just mentioned in the last segment, is one of those main reasons, right? Because there's a new, like I said, there's a new feel on West End, and it's something that has radiated from football to basketball, and will hopefully after this season can help the Vandy boys pick themselves up by their bootstraps. So the first game time is 12 Eastern, or noon Eastern, 11 Central. And then the next two game times are 6 and 6:30. So those have been set, and you are ready to roll there. Now, those games are against Alcorn State and Georgia State, so those games aren't typically well, they'll be televised. Alcorn State will be televised on SEC Plus. They haven't named TV partners just yet, but it's out there. So I think when you look at the game times, it's not surprising. Those 6 o'clock game times, those are like primetime slots, and those are, those later games against those, I don't want to say lesser opponents, because that's not necessarily true. I think Georgia State's going to have a really, really good season, but they're trying to save these primetime slots for primetime games, things like that. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good season. I think you're gonna have you're gonna have time to get some to get some good viewing in for the first three games. I mean, Vandy has a chance to go 3-0 in the first series, first set of games. So you have to be excited about that. You have to be, they're the first game going. You can watch Vandy beat the hell out of Virginia Tech, and then you can turn the TV to some other games throughout the course of the day and really just kind of enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend. I almost said Memorial Day, but I think you're in for, these games are important, because if you win those first three, you might get a primetime slot against Missouri, depending on who else is playing. When you may get a primetime slot against them. I think the 11 o'clock is kind of like it's going to be your new primetime slot. I think that's going to be midday, right after game day, or right after Fox Noon kickoff, or whatever pregame show you like to watch. It's going to be, well, given the fact that we're SEC, I kind of have to be, pro game day here, which I already am anyway. So that's not really much of a stretch, but there's going to be some real estate for being able to be that ESPN game right after game day. I think that's going to turn out to be a primetime slot. I think your ABC 7:30 game will be a primetime slot as well, and then everything else will kind of fill in. I think you'll have a marquee matchup at the 3:30 slot, and Vandy has a chance, if they can go 3-0, they have a chance of getting one of those coveted spots against Missouri. That game could be, well, maybe not, but that game, you never know. Depending on how they win those games, depending on if they somehow beat Virginia Tech convincingly and win those three games like they should, you could very well see that. So these games are going to determine kind of where they're put the rest of the season. If for some reason you go like 1-2 in those games, like you're going to be relegated SEC Plus, SEC Network Plus for a long time, and you better hope that your all access episodes, documentary episodes, are going to be better than the actual games. But there's much different possibilities, but it's exciting because when these game times are announced, it just means that we're closer and closer and closer to the season, and that's really kind of exciting. So I'm excited. You should be too, and this is going to be awesome. So that being said, Virginia Tech, that's the main one. Virginia Tech, 11 a.m. kick. Get your tickets. Go to your tailgate. You're going to have to – it's going to be a sprint. It's going to be a sprint party, right? You're going to have to get there, and you're going to have to party hard, and then go in the stadium, support your boys. And so that's going to be what happens with these game times. So enjoy. But someone else that you could possibly be enjoying watching wearing the black and gold, Josiah Broxton. Is he going to commit? Maybe, maybe not. He's making a decision. Regardless, he'll be a great fit if he does decide to commit here. I'll tell you why next. All right. We are presented by FanDuel. Did you know it's winner take all in time in the NBA and NHL playoffs? They're both in the finals now. You got Oilers versus Panthers, and you got Mavs versus Celtics in the NBA. And FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. And a big win that I've got the Florida Panthers in 5. I think they're gonna run away with it, despite the viral clip of the Oilers fan. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more, like parlays. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. All right, welcome back. It is the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure you check out Locked On SEC. Make them your second listen each and every day. Chris Gordy has all the stories from around the conference. He does a phenomenal job there. If you want to, in your quest to be the most educated fan base in the conference, if you want to do that, check out the other shows from the SEC on this network. Locked on Auburn, Locked on Ole Miss, Locked on Georgia, Locked on LSU, all those shows to make sure you're the most educated fan base. You can do it. We can help. So, Josiah Broxton, linebacker, Florida. He's making his decision very, very soon. He's from Tallahassee. He goes to Florida High School in Tallahassee. They're the Florida Seminoles. It sounds weird, doesn't it? But it is true. He was in Nashville for his official visit this past weekend. He's a super productive linebacker, and I think he would be probably ranked higher if he was more than 6 foot. But at 6 foot, 200 pounds, not 200 and just 200 even. He is somebody that you should be excited about, and I think he'd be a good fit in this defense, albeit. I think I noticed a pattern here where Clark Lee is going after the slightly undersized but extremely productive players. And I like that a lot, right? Because these are the guys that have the chip on their shoulder, right? Like Zion Lawson, he's 6'3". He'd be a 5-star if he was 6'5", but he's an edge player. But he's just as explosive as probably most of you 6'5" guys, but he's probably more solid. And he plays at extremely high level, and I think he'd be really productive here at Vanderbilt. Said that yesterday. I think the same here for Josiah Broxton, right? He is somebody that I think really runs well sideline to sideline. And again, if you want a little bit of a treat, make sure you go watch his huddle highlights. I think he has really good reaction time when the ball is snapped. He's somebody that is really disruptive and just has a knack for being around the football. I mean, his stats tell you that story too. 124 tackles, 18 for loss, 3 sacks while creating 4 fumbles. I mean, the guy's just a walking, havoc player, right? And he runs well sideline to sideline, and he's physical. He's extremely physical, which, I mean, it's no surprise that I'm saying this about a linebacker being physical, but like you watch him, like, some linebackers, they're physical, they're not scared to tackle, but like, and they get there and they make the tackle and things like that. They're productive, but like you see him and like he is just like he's shot out of a cannon. And when he gets there, he's bringing, right? He's bringing all 200 pounds of it. And I bet he'll graduate at about 210, 215. He'll come in about 225 is probably what he'd play at if he enrolls at Vanderbilt. But I mean, the guy can go, man. The guy has a motor, and he's somebody that I'm super impressed with. We're competing with Missouri and Duke and Syracuse on this. I think are the main players, probably Missouri being probably being somebody that is a major player. I don't know much about Syracuse's chances, but I would say Missouri is probably the main competition here with him. But I think, with what Clark Lee wants to do, I think if I'm Clark Lee, if I'm Nick Lazinski, I think I said that name right. I'm showing him Kane Patterson, or not Kane Patterson. Well, maybe Kane Patterson, but definitely Langston Patterson highlights. I'm showing him just how I'm going to use the Mike linebacker and just how aggressive you're probably going to be able to be with somebody that can run like him. I mean, I think he's somebody that can recover. He's physical. When he blitzes, he can make those ooh and ah type tackles, where the crowd's like, ooh, ah, those type tackles. And so by doing that, you get somebody that just brings excitement to the defense. You have somebody that has good instincts that can get there to be able to deliver those shots. He's really good at reading things coming downhill and redirecting and recovering. That's one of his strong suits. Probably fit in probably as a will linebacker, maybe kind of like on that weak side, maybe that field side, if they go field boundary, because I think he has the running ability to be able to chase things down, A to B to C, gap and outside, to force things out to the edge players and the safeties coming downhill and stretch things out horizontally. So he's very sound in what he does, very sure tackler. Like I said, when he makes the hit, the ball carrier goes backwards, and that's incredible. So keep your eyes peeled for this one as well. He's somebody that can really kind of get it done. Another guy that was on official visit before we get out of here, Cameron Dixon out of Flower Bluff, Texas. That's Corpus Christi area, Texas coast. He was in Vanderbilt as well. He has offers from TCU, Houston, and Michigan State, which I think Houston's probably the leader there. He had 69 catches for 1,100 yards, big 6'2" receiver, kind of lanky. I really like his highlight. I don't know when he's committing or when he plans on committing, but I think he would fit in great with what Vanderbilt does offensively. He's a receiver that I like a lot, and he's like I said, because he's long, he's fast, he's rangy. Again, he is somebody that in a short, quick game, he can break a few tackles and he can go. And when you look at that and that alone, that's got to give you hope. That's got to give you a little bit of optimism there if he decides. And he's really good at high pointing the ball. He plays a lot taller than he is. I mean, at 6'2", that's pretty tall for a receiver, but he's just so sudden and he's good. He can move. But TCU and Houston are in the mix. So Vanderbilt has got their work cut out for Cameron Dixon, but he does have an offer, and he is, I think Vanderbilt would be a really good fit for him if he decides that when he's ready to make his decision, if he decides that Vanderbilt is for him. He's somebody that I could see I guess his current roster prop comp is Jeremiah Dillon. I think that'd be his current roster comp. And so, and then of course, with Broxton, I think his roster comp is probably Prince Collie. So, but that's going to do it for us here today on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. We hope you have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. As always, back and ready than ever. Anchor down and have a good evening. Have a good day. Peace. That shows.